You asked that question of why I left Disney, and I didn't quite get there yet. But, I mean, you're exactly right as far as I started to see the story that was out there about, and they're hiding Sex in the Clouds and Lion King. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, I paused the VHS as a kid because I read that online, and I was like, it's there!
Or like the Little Mermaid castle, the Little Mermaid castle,
right?
The cover. Remember that one?
I mean, I would love to debunk a few things because I know both those stories, and they are false because it's not Sex in the Clouds. There is something hidden, yes, and that's what Disney would do. Is they couldn't say yes, we admit it, we had something in there. And by the way, they didn't know it. The effects guys that animated all that dust. Okay, so let me, since I'm going there, Rafiki. Right, he sees dust flowing in there and he grabs it, and that's how he makes the. But that dust came from, remember, adult Simba kind of plops down on the ground and dust flies up, and I guess because he touched it, Rafiki's able to grab it. I don't remember how that worked, but kind of put it in a little potion thing and realized that he's still alive or something. I think that was what we got out of that. But as that dust was animated across the screen, across 100 miles, who knows, we see it floating through the air. That's effects animators that do that.
Yes.
So I'm just establishing that for the audience. And so the effects animators made it form it for like one frame, maybe two tops, into not SEX, although it's very loose. You can barely see it. It's SFX. Which stands for special effects. They were just defining we're special effects.
It's a little too close there for.
Well, and it's all made up of little particles,
exactly.
And so they didn't do a great job because they didn't want it to get too noticed, right?
Right.
Because nobody went to the directors and told them that they did that. It was a secret. They were doing it as just a little Easter egg for themselves.
It looks like an E to me when I see it. I got to be honest. It really looks like an E.
If somebody puts E in your head,
yeah.
You see an E, right? So if now look at it again, I know there's probably a particle or two they should have deleted and at the bottom, and it would have been a little more clearly SFX. But anyway, look at it again. That is the true story. I know the people that did it. Now, same with I'm going to just stay with this for a second in case the audience is interested. The mermaid thing. There was two artists that did the Little Mermaid poster art that went on the cover of the VHS that everybody says is
suggestive. Yeah,
very suggestive of male units. And so, but what I saw the original drawing. I have the original drawing that was then painted for the cover. And so one problem out there is that a lot of people don't know who painted which because there was two artists. And so the story is that they gave the assignment to two artists because it was an overnight job. They wanted it right away. For whatever reason, they waited to the last minute. And this doesn't surprise me about Disney or any big studio. And so these guys had to work all night. They each did a cover. They each did a back cover. And but they were all working from the same drawing. And so I have the drawing of the cover. And yes, it still already kind of looked a little phallic, yes. But as they were looking at coral, and if you look at coral, it's very lumpy and, well, if you're doing it fast, maybe it gets a little veiny. I don't know, but these guys swear, I talked to both of them, and the one that actually the cover was used, and the other one they used the back cover for his art, and they both swear that. No, it was just done so fast. Nobody took a second look at it. They were looking at the characters. They were so concentrated on the characters, and I'm including in the illustrators too. Not the only, and then the people that were approving it. All they cared about was, are they smiling? Are they right? Because and that happens in art in general. Any artist will tell you. I just sort of put shapes back there and trees. I didn't think the trees looked phallic. You know what I mean? Like you're not thinking about it. You're just thinking about, does that look like Ariel? Is she happy? Is everybody happy? You know, I want to get it past, and it's a fast job.
I think the one that really freaked people out, I can't remember which one it was. I know there was a film where there was like a split-second frame of a pornographic image in the background.
That was Roger Rabbit. Oh, no. That's the original Rescuers.
Yeah, yeah. How did that happen? And
that's real.
Yeah.
So the cameraman was staying up all night, and this is internal Disney legend. he was working all night on Rescuers Down Under. This is back when the machine they would shoot on. You ever see the big down shooters where the camera's way up high and there's platinums, and so the multi-plane process and all that. So these camera operators would be in a big room with a super high ceiling, and the camera would be up here, and they're like doing like hand cranking a pan. And so this was a pan where the seagull is dive bombing down a building. And as he's going past all this, these windows are blurring by one frame at a time because he's just going down so fast. And so as he's like one frame at a time, moving the background, putting on the next cell, hitting a button to hit one frame of film, then taking all that off, putting on the next one, cranking everything, doing another frame, like literally that kind of
it's tedious.
Insane tediousness. All night long because it's in a rush to get out. This is one of the last film. He, just gets on a whim, and he's got a Playboy near him.
Oh no!
Cuts out a picture of a topless lady, and he puts it in there for one frame. He sticks it in the window, so as that window's blurring by, you could see for one frame. Now here's the thing. This is before VHS. Nobody knew VHS was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so this was back when it was film. And so he thought, nobody's going to see one frame of film, but I'll be able to tell all the guys, what I did and be the hero. And sure enough, that film, The Rescuers, I think came out in like 1977 or something like that. It comes out, nobody sees it.
Of course not.
This is a hidden Easter egg that nobody knew about for, we'll say, decades. Then VHS comes out. Still, nobody sees it for a while until just some people get into the technology gets better to where you could frame by frame, because even when it first came out, you couldn't do that. And now people start discovering it. And then at one point, it gets blown up. And so Disney takes back all the VHS copies. They have to replace them all. It was a big deal at the time. They lost millions of dollars for sure, just to get that one frame out of there.
Well, it's damage of course, because kids. I mean, you can't have kids see that even for a split second. It's so horrible that man did that. It's so horrifying that man did that.
Well, and I will say, Disney had no idea.
It goes to the ideas, like, people, when you hear those stories, like that frame or the background of those drawings, is people are imagining Eisner or Bob Iger going like this, we're going to corrupt your kids, put this in there, when what you're seeing is that it's a large company, it was decentralized, and they didn't know this stuff was going on. Now, that's not giving them the pass, because we look at what they're putting out now, and people
they get
have
the profits, the buck stops with them.
But the thing is people, that there's two interpretations of that, right? It's like, yes, the buck does stop with them, but the vast majority of the people that care enough to talk about these issues are thinking about Disney in a very centralized and evil fashion. Now, there's arguments to be made about that being now with a lot of the stuff they're putting out, just simply having really, really ham-fisted messages. Why are you making movies about girls on their period? Things like that. Like that's fine, but it goes to show that there's two different views of how people perceive the evils of Disney's past behavior.
Well, I think,
and I do want to speak to that. It's a good point. This is why I was defending it to my sister. I was like, I know the backstory. I know that, no, they didn't know about that, and blah, blah, blah. Or that was just one artist that did that. Or even, well, we're just being true to the culture by showing that. And so I knew the backstory, and so I was defending it. And so let me finally get to that.
Sure,
about my
let's let you get
story
there.
that I almost started 3 times. Finally, we start making a film called John Henry. It's a little short animated film. Anybody see it? You might have saw it when you were young in school or something. On a rainy day, they put on John Henry. But just like Johnny Appleseed, it's a folk tale. Is really what kind of a story it is. And so my mentor, Mark Henn, he becomes a director, and he's like, I want to make this John Henry, and it'll be kind of completion to some of the Paul Bunyan and the Johnny Appleseed, some of the other things that they did in the past in the 40s. Let's make a modern day folktale, and it should be about John Henry. And the story of John Henry, if you guys, anybody know it?
No, I don't.
No.
This is crazy. Okay, a little bit over there. It's the story of African American man that is, and it's in the, we'll say, 20s. I'm probably getting my.
Was this the
decades
train
off.
tracks?
Yeah. With the
yes.
train
Okay, I
tracks.
do know this story. Yeah.
So yeah, it's man against machine is the
Yes.
ultimate story, but it's also about slavery and people that have just come out of slavery, John Henry being one of them. And this is how they're this is sort of the next phase of their freedom, is they're no longer slaves, but now they're working for the railroad company that is a little bit slavery all over again, but white and black and Chinese and, the whole bit. But they've been told, if you put this track, this is all true, all the way across the U.S., you're going to get land. We'll give you land, because the railroad companies owned land all along the way, and so they were promising that as a gift for all these people that would basically die making the railroad. And so John Henry, this is a tale placed in that time, in that period, is about him taking on a machine. This could be AI today, but somebody's created a machine that can hammer in the spikes faster than 10 men, and so therefore it's about to take all their jobs, but also rob them from
the land,
having land, right? Wow. And freedom. And so he is this, huge, massive guy. He's the top guy there at just hammering into the spikes. And so he takes on the machine. So it's a man versus machine. In the end, he ends up, sacrificing, but basically dying because from exhaustion. But he does beat the machine. Everybody's able, and they throw the machine away. So everybody's back to normal. Progress no longer continues. They just throw away the machine. But anyway, we're making this short film. And I'm a supervising animator. I just done Mushu in Milan. This is right after Milan. And I start working on that film as one of the supervising animators. I'm going to do Polly. Polly's the wife of John Henry. And so it's a small team making this film, but it's also got spiritual elements throughout it, and Christian spiritual elements. So to be very clear. And so this is the first time that Disney really going down that road, not only to illustrate African Americans, honestly, too. That was pretty new at the time, too. This is one of the very first Disney black characters, but also that we were going to have Christian faith embedded in it, because we all know in that culture coming out of slavery, African Americans got through that through their faith. Gospel music comes from that time, all of that, right? It's cemented in it. So why wouldn't you go back to Pocahontas now? Remember what I said about Pocahontas, all the other being true to their culture. We're being true to that time, that place, and that culture by saying, yeah, gospel music's going to be in the background. They hired Sounds of Blackness, was a group of gospel singers, and a lot of the lyrics in there had God mentions and faith mentions, but it was very light. If any Christian would probably look at it, oh, it's very light, but yeah, it's there. There's a cross on the church and stuff like that. So long story short, we have a screening with about 10 people in the room, but 2 of the people are the head of Disney Animation, president, and the vice president of Disney Animation. The intention, and it's only storyboards. We're showing it to say, can we get the green light to spend more money and make the actual film, animate it? But it had some animation. So anyway, they screen it, and afterwards there's a pause where the lights come up. We're all waiting to hear what the president thinks, and he says, "This makes me feel uncomfortable."
What?
And I will never forget that line, because that was the moment that I didn't know it at the time, but that was the moment I can trace back to that I half decided I'm leaving, because
good for you.
6 months later I did leave, but I can trace it back to that moment. There were other things, like I said, for years I was defending, but finally I heard it from the top. Somebody they're throwing in their personal opinions about Christianity. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is the movie. That's one of the reasons I was so passionate about making it. I'm like, finally, we get to show some Christian faith in our films. And it seemed so obvious. It seemed, well, of course you would, especially in this story, for all those reasons I stated. And now I'm hearing from the top, oh, I'm uncomfortable with this. And I think some things were taken out and watered down. I think some lyrics were changed. And it's still got it's still got gospel music in it and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, all of a sudden now it became truth to me. And I literally started contacting Big Idea Productions after that, which makes VeggieTales. And I said, hey, you need a Disney animator? And they didn't, but they found a place for me. And I ended up going over there and helping to create some VeggieTales for a few years until, unfortunately, they went bankrupt.
What a wake-up call. I mean, that must have just been such a jarring moment for you to hear an executive say that made them uncomfortable. When it you know, I mean, and it's not even as if it was telling people to repent and accept the gospel. That would be great, but it was just including some representation of Christianity. Yeah. And that was enough for them. Do you remember, did he elaborate? Obviously we know why he was uncomfortable, and I'm curious if anything specific was said.
Well, and I don't want to badmouth Disney too much, because some of what you're saying over there is that, well, look, it's a company. We never thought that Disney was a Christian, faith-based company. A lot of people during that time, especially in the 90s, were basically feeding that into Disney, that they thought they were pure. And we all needed to sort of wake up to that a company is not a Christian company, especially if they're for profit, right? So we just were reading that into it because we were feeding it to our kids for so many years, and then we started waking up to, oh wait, they're putting in more adult themes or other faith cultures, and I don't know if I like that anymore, and so we were destroyed. This isn't the Disney that Walt created, and then that was the story for so many years of like Walt would have never done this, and I think just we needed as people, and as parents, police things a little bit more, not have, and that's what we're really talking about is I still feel strongly about this and some of what you're saying, which is, we do have to police this as parents, but I also want to keep certain things in the house. I don't want Hollywood telling me, my kids, certain things. I don't want them to know about everything. So back to that story, the big surprise is that right after the president said that, the vice president, who was a gay man, he said, what? You don't get it? That's what this is all about. Of course it's in there. And so it was equally surprising to see him defend it.
Interesting.
And say, no, because he's basically saying the same thing. We did this in Pocahontas. We did this for all those same reasons. Why wouldn't we do it here?
It's a very reasonable response to say
it was.
And I think that's something that a lot of companies now is the reason goes out the window. It's like, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't matter. This is what we should push. And of course, there's that famous clip of that lady saying, my not so secret gay agenda. That's crazy when you're just trying to put in gospel music and someone's like, I'm uncomfortable. But you also worked on films that had maybe elements you were uncomfortable with, but your job is to animate that. And as long as it's not something that's overly grotesque, it's like animating something in Mulan where he talked to the ancestors, Mushu himself is a representation of that. And so it's interesting to see that the change from common sense, I'm a gay man, but makes sense that we're showing this, to now they're kind of pushing these agendas more, not just looking at, well, it's true to the story and it's reasonable. Did you see that change like as you were about to leave, or was that still pretty common to see like more common sense there?
Well, I honestly left right after that. So literally within 6 months I was gone. And so where it went after that, I totally agree. Obviously it's gone much further.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.